Welcome to Gambling with an Edge. And now, here are Bob and Richard.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Gambling with an Edge. I'm Bob Dancer.
And I'm Richard Munchkin.
Our guest today is Jimmy Jazz, who is a value seeker and a regular contributor to the Gambling with an Edge page. What would you call it? Website, I guess.
Yeah, blog.
So welcome, Jimmy Jazz, to Gambling with an Edge.
Thanks, Bob and Richard. Great to be here.
All right. First thing we want to talk about is you recalled recently a double-up feature bug almost 20 years ago. What was that all about?
Yeah, this was back in about 2000. There was a guy called Zeus Yagi, and he was in Canada, and he found that the old Williams machines, there was a feature, Easter egg, bug, call it what you will, where you could basically empty the machine pretty much at will. He went to Williams, offered to be their consultant for a sum of money. Williams offered him a much lower sum of money, which he refused. Then Williams sued him, and they had a legal fight for about 5 years.
Any recollection of how that legal fight turned out?
I think no issue on either side. Williams didn't sue him for extortion, and he didn't get anything from them for all his time and trouble.
But he did manage to make a lot of money off the machines.
I don't think he made a lot. I think he was more interested in bringing the feature to them and letting them know what it was. If he wanted to make a lot of money, he would have never told Williams, hey, look what's going on.
You know, just in my limited experience with people trying to do this, it just never seems to work. Like, the people that you're there trying to get to pay you for the information you have, in my experience, it just never goes well. I'm sure there are cases where it has, but yeah.
Yeah, it didn't go so well for him. It cost him a lot of time, trouble, and probably legal fees. But the feature, it was well publicized and was pretty much corrected by Williams. And then a couple years later, maybe 2002, some of the people I used to play with at Greektown were kind of talking about, hey, I have this play. I go down to this casino. I take a few bucks with me. I come back home with $4,000, and it's easy as can be, but never really told me exactly what the deal was. So they were kind of like almost lording it over me a little bit. So I finally told the guy, I said, look, I just want to see it. I'm an engineer. I'm curious how this works. Show me what's going on. You take all the money. I don't care. So the way it worked was, and these are the old Williams machines, and this is back in the coin drop days. So if you had a winning hand, like if you dealt a pair of jacks and jacks are better, and you hold the two jacks, and then as the other cards are filling in, if you repeatedly tap the draw a deal button, you would go into the double up. And what would happen is, you would bet one coin to win two. And if you won, you'd bet 2 to win 4 and 4 to win 8. And when you lost, you exited. But when you came back in the next time, you bet one coin, but it kept the old counter. So one coin got you 8. And then one coin got you 16 if you won that one. And then one coin got you 32. So eventually, if you do this 4 or 5 times, you're betting one coin to win 512 on an even money feature. So you could pretty much take out as much from this machine as you really wanted to. Now, the limiting factors were coin droppers, not drawing attention to yourself. So what this gentleman would do is he would build up so many credits and then switch to either Keno or one of the slot machines, slot games on there. There were 4 or 5 games on there. So he tried to get a hand pay, so that way you get cash instead of a pile of coins. So that feature stuck around for a little while at this particular casino, and that was the only place I had heard that still had it after the initial run of the machine. And it actually lasted quite a while. And I actually kind of ended the play. I was playing along, and I got a memory heap error on the machine, which means the insides are pretty much dead. So the slot tech came over, couldn't fix it, and they had to actually ask me how many credits I had, and I told them, and they paid me. But once that machine died, they got rid of it and never brought it back.
So we should talk about why we're talking about a play that's 20 years old. So there have been I don't want to say quite a few, but there have been other instances where people have found exploits on machines involving the double up feature. So, sometimes everything old is new again, so it's something that you may want to keep your eye out for or play around with on a machine, because you never know when you might find some kind of gold mine like that.
Right, and I think the interesting part is there's always some discussion about, was this an actual innocent error by the manufacturer? And I did a little bit of programming and I have a little bit of knowledge of software, not a great deal, but to have that feature in there, not detected, and have to be activated by a particular key sequence, I would say very, very low probability that was just a mistake. I think somebody put that in there on purpose to, for whatever reason.
Huh.
And when you do find one of these glitches and you're overpaid, then you have to try to remember the exact sequence of whatever it was that you did to do it. And sometimes you can't find that. Sometimes it's just a one-off.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but just knowing it exists makes it easier for you to find it again, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know that it's there, so...
Yeah, keep the eyes open. Sometimes if you see something that looks funny, it might be something interesting.
All right. On many earlier shows, you've talked about best credit cards and those kind of things. On the Blackjack Apprenticeship podcast you were on a few months ago, and you talked about how to get a companion fare. So can you briefly go through that? And without going through it in entire detail, we will provide the link in the show notes. And can you briefly go through how that works?
Sure. So I've talked about Chase and Southwest credit cards in the past, and to me, this is still the best travel deal going. So they changed the rules a little bit. So now to get companion fare, you need to acquire 125,000 rapid reward miles in a calendar year, and that gets you a free ticket for your partner for the rest of the current year and all of the next year. So if you complete that 125,000 mile requirement, say in June, you've got basically a buy one, get one free for the next year and a half. Chase has, I think, 5 different credit cards, 3 personal, 2 business. And the best business credit card is called Performance. And for a $5,000 spend in 3 months, they'll give you 75,000 of these rapid reward points, 70,000, sorry. And then your 5,000 spend gets you to 75,000. So you need to acquire another 50,000 to get the companion fare. And the personal credit cards, I think the best current offer is 40,000, and there's another 20,000 for additional spend during the year. So by obtaining a business credit card and a personal credit card, it's pretty easy to acquire enough points to get companion fare from Southwest.
So are those both branded Southwest cards?
Yes.
And they both have a fee?
Yes.
And so ideally you would want to try to get both those cards in January of the year and complete it all as quickly as possible. So you would get almost 2 years of flying.
Actually, the best way to do it would be probably get the card in November, do some of your spending, and then finish the spending in January. Let it get credited in that month, and that would give you the most time. So it goes by when the points are credited, and the points are credited at the end of your
billing cycle.
So you got to do a little bit to make sure that if you're trying to juggle between years, make sure all the final spend, when the miles are credited, all occurs in the year you want to get the companion fare. But they fly to Aruba, they fly to the Bahamas, they now fly to Hawaii,
They fly to Cabo.
Yeah. So if you like U.S. travel and the Caribbean and Hawaii, it's a great program.
But Chase does have some restrictions on how many credit cards you have got in the last 2 years.
So Chase says you can only have, if you've opened 5 or more credit cards in the last 2 years, they'll deny you. And that's on the personal credit card side. On the business credit card side, it's a little bit looser if you're an established business. If you're a startup business and you have no business history, they'll use your personal credit history to determine whether you get their card or not. Also, you can open one personal card at a time. If you've had their offer in the last 2 years, they won't let you open the same card again. So there's a 2-year waiting period. A couple little rules like that, but that's not uncommon for other credit card.
Can you get around that by doing you have the card and then your partner get a card in 2 years later, and so that does that count? Or
no, that works very well, and myself and Haley Marie have done that, and it gets even better because I can refer her and get the 10,000 mile referral fee as well, which also counts towards companion fare.
Now can you get
that doesn't count toward her. If she's the one getting the card, she's the one that needs the miles. Your 10,000 wouldn't count toward her.
Right. But if we're doing like I'm finishing up and then she's just starting type deal and there's some overlap.
Now, if I had a Southwest card and I canceled it some number of years ago, can I apply and get it again and get the points or no?
2 years. So say you opened the Southwest Plus card in 2015, held it for 2 years, canceled it. It's now 2020. You can apply for that card again.
And get the points.
Yes.
But this travel has to be taken by you personally and your one companion. Does your companion have to stay the same person throughout the time period?
You can switch 3 times per calendar year. So I can start with my wife, I could switch to somebody else, switch back to my wife, all in 2020, and then repeat that in 2021.
But you have to be one of the people on the flight.
Correct.
Now, if you switch to me, I got a free ticket, and so you and I are going somewhere, can you cancel your ticket and leave me with mine?
No. They would, when you cancel the primary, it cancels the companion.
Very good. All right. So you're going to give Richard a link to the Blackjack Apprenticeship podcast, and he'll put it in the show notes in case we went over it too fast.
Yeah, and it's just blackjackapprenticeship.com. It's their website, and they have a podcast section. So it'll be listed there, and I think the show aired.
We'll put a direct link to it. But also, there have been some articles on Gambling with an Edge about this very thing. Were those yours, or were those the travel guy?
I've posted a couple times. The travel guy's posted a couple times.
Okay, so we'll link to that as well.
Yeah. It's a great program, though.
Okay, a while ago, you're since you live in the Detroit area, I think, there was this nickel lawsuit where a woman was going through the Motor City Casino, found a slot machine with either the nickel token in the spill tray or 5 cents left on the meter. I don't remember quite what it was, and got treated poorly. Do you remember that one?
Yes, I do. So that was it was actually quite a while ago. I think it was like 2005, 2006. So this lady is on a bus trip, 75-year-old grandmother with a couple of her friends, and she's playing and she walks around, and this is the old coin dropper days. So she finds a 5-cent token in the tray. No big deal, picks it up, puts it in, starts playing.
They actually had 5-cent token, or were they nickels?
They were 5-cent tokens.
Huh.
Really? In Vegas, they only had tokens for dollars, but they would give you rolls of nickels.
I've seen tokens for quarters.
Yeah. I've seen quarter tokens.
I've seen quarter tokens.
Yeah. Anyway, so she finds this nickel token, puts it in, starts playing. and security comes over and says, you can't do that. We're going to arrest you because that's against casino policy. And of course, the casino policy is never stated, never written, never shown anywhere. So they took her and they backroomed her and, interrogated her and took her license and took her social security number and did all this investigating. And then, she said, I'm meeting my friends for lunch. Can I go join them for lunch? And they said, no, you can't go back in the casino. So she's waiting in the lobby area inside the casino. And they say, nope, you can't stay there. You got to go outside. And this is July in Detroit, and it's like 98 degrees and humid. So she sits out there for a couple hours and then finally meets up with her friends and goes on her way. So she sues, and, Motor City denies all responsibility, and the lawsuit goes on and on. And they finally issued a judgment against Motor City Casino, and it was broken down into a couple parts. So they gave $279 for compensatory damages.
Big deal.
It was actually $279.05 because they gave her the 5 cents for the token too.
Oh, that's a bigger deal.
Well, I mean, it's kind of cute though. And then $500 in punitive damages against the Motor City security guard, who told the lady that she was actually a Detroit police officer, which was not true. And then they awarded originally, I think it was $870,000 in punitive damages for how she was treated, which was later reduced to about $600,000.
That is a big deal.
Yeah, so that's a good chunk of change. And the reason I wanted to mention this is the majority of the amount awarded was not for the arrest, but for how she was treated during the arrest. So if she would have just found the nickel, they said, no, you can't do that. You have to leave. That would probably have been the end of it. But because they didn't handle it right, basically lied to her, backroomed her for not a very good reason, and then didn't treat her well afterwards. Wayne County juries are notoriously generous in judgments, and Motor City had to eat almost $700,000.
Now, the fact that she's a little old lady.
Yeah, that certainly helped.
Didn't hurt.
It's like if there was good thing it wasn't an 18-year-old underage kid in there doing it. It wouldn't have ended the same way.
Right.
And all right, so Bob Nersessian, he's been on the show numerous times, and he says when you get to if a policeman pulls you over, the best thing to do is to say as little as possible other than and hand him the information that he needs to process the stop, which would include usually your license and your registration. And otherwise, he says he never says nothing. He always says something. But he recommends to everybody else that they say nothing because that will just get him into trouble. Now, is that your experience, Jimmy?
Well, I think part of this, it was on your show talking about the illegal cash forfeiture seizure type deal. And I think that was whoever the attorney was talking about how to avoid.
It would have been Bob.
Yeah, okay, cash seizures. But I drive a little faster and a little more aggressively than I should at times, and have been pulled over a few times. And what I find is by cooperating and giving the officer the information he needs without being overly sweet, goes a long way towards possibly not getting a ticket or not getting a ticket for as bad of an offense as you committed. This is about 15 years ago. I was going into the Sahara casino from the north. So you make the left turn on Las Vegas Boulevard. So there's a car in front of me, and she turns, and then I turn, and then we both go, and the policeman pulls us both over in the parking structure. Because I had forgotten there's actually a traffic light above there. So we both went through the red light. So she goes ahead about another 300 feet. You have that big long stretch for the Sahara parking structure. And the police officer comes to me and says, wait here, goes to her. She's all agitated and excited, gets out of her car, starts walking to the policeman, which is a definite no-no, and is like yelling and screaming and doing all this weird stuff. So he writes her a ticket. And then comes back to me. And this is like 20 minutes later. So I said, I could probably sneak out and run, but I'm just going to wait here. And he says to me, he goes, you were probably just following the person in front of you. And as soon as she leaves, I'll give you a warning and send you on your way. So, whatever questions he asked, I answered politely. And I think that goes a long way for minor traffic stops. I think if I would have said, here's my license and registration, I'm not going to say another word to you, I think I would have gotten a ticket for going through that red light.
Yeah, but I think that's a much different thing than, when you're stopped on an interstate and their first question is, where are you going? Mm-hmm. Do you have any money or drugs in the car? Things like that. I had a ticket one morning. I was coming home from a poker game, 5:00 in the morning. I was doing like 10 over. And just as he pulls me over, it starts to rain. And I think, oh, man, there's no way I'm getting out of this if he has to stand out there in the rain. But, I was nice to him. I said, you're right. I was speeding. I'm on my way home. I'm not used to being up this late, which was total BS, And he gave me a warning and let me go. So, yeah, I think there's a big difference between being pulled over for an obvious violation mm-hmm. and where they pull you over for nothing on the interstate, where clearly they're just there fishing to see if they can get something.
Right. And the point I wanted to make is that don't handle every encounter with a police officer the way they told you to encounter when you have a money situation like that. So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, another thing that helps is you try to be a young, attractive female when they pull you over.
Right. Or a little old lady.
There you go.
Now, Predictit.org is one of our sponsors. So, Jimmy, do you have any thoughts about Predictit.org?
With the current political climate, they've got to be just cleaning up. I can't believe that they don't have all the business in the world, because it is such a cool idea, because everybody thinks that they're, a political expert and people like arguing politics back and forth. And here you have a chance to actually wager on it. And if you're a sharp on politics, you can pick up a few bucks. And it's such a cool idea. I'm not sure how they got around the entire gambling aspect of it.
They got a waiver specifically for that. They
because
got a waiver.
They were a low limit. There's a cap on the amount you can wager.
No, I think they had something because it was some kind of research or something like that. Mm-hmm. There's another one that has even smaller limits that's attached to a university that I can't think of the name of off the top of my head. But I think that's how they got it. But we did talk about that on the episode where he was on.
Such a cool idea, though. I think they'll do really well.
Yeah, we're taping this on the last day of January, which is when they are going to vote as to whether or not they're going to call witnesses in the Senate impeachment trial. And before the vote is taken, which is now, it looks dead certain that they're not going to call witnesses. But 5 days ago, it looked like they probably would. So that's one that...
Right. So there are huge swings in some of these markets. So
if you're if your crystal ball works and you have really good political instincts, this is an opportunity for you.
Yeah, there's also the possibility that you can look at Betfair, which is in the UK, where they make markets on these kind of things, and find discrepancies in the market. So you may then see that you can pick up what are better prices. There would be arbitrage opportunity, mm-hmm. but also you may just want to bet one side of it by taking the better side.
Sure.
Several months ago, on my own column, I wrote about writing an obituary for Bonnie and my own. Rather than obituary itself, it was a speech I would give at the memorial service when I stood up and talked about Bonnie's life and stuff, what I would say. But I had this all prepared, and I have it for her and mostly the way done for me. Now, obviously, I can't read my own, but somebody who is going to give that talk which possibly could be Richard for all I know, would have some notes so he wouldn't have to totally make everything up or do a lot of research when people were stressed about it. So, Jimmy, you saw that and you took it one step further. What happened?
Well, my father passed away in November. He was 96 and was actually playing horseshoes till he was 93. So he got his money's worth out of his life. But I was the executor for the will, and I handled his finances. And I thought I had everything buttoned down pretty well. But once he passed away and we started going through the details of it, there's a lot of little stuff that you don't think about that doesn't work out quite the way you think. I thought I was also the financial power of attorney. So I thought as financial power of attorney, I could sign one of his checks and deposit it. I can't. I thought I could change beneficiaries on his insurance policies. I can't. So there's a lot of little things, and there's the will and the power of attorney and beneficiaries, and they all kind of intermingle. So my advice to people is take a look at the situation and what the details of the finances are and how you think they want to work out, and make sure with whatever legal method you take, will, trust, whatever, that it works out the way you think it does, because it's way, way more complicated than you think. And there's a reason attorneys make a lot of money an hour to sift through all this stuff. So, people think, I don't need a will. Yes, you do. But a will isn't quite enough. There's a lot more to the will. And it's
if you have assets, you really need a trust.
And, that was a funny thing because, my dad wasn't a very wealthy man. And the number they always threw around for a trust was like $700,000 in assets. Above that, you look at getting a trust. But looking back, it would have made everything so much easier. I mean, he was probably maybe $300,000 in assets. I mean, not a fortune. But even getting a trust at that level, it makes everything so easy. You put it in this one pile, and then you divvy it up when he passes.
Yeah, and there's no probate to deal with.
He was a UAW worker. Big Three auto worker. So I went to their legal counsel, and the attorney twice talked me out of getting a trust. He said, you don't have enough assets, don't worry about it. And I'm still not sure why he did that. One, he's turning down business for himself. And two, it made it so much more complicated on my end. And we're still going through stuff to try and figure out, how to get assets distributed and money moved around. So I guess the short summary is, if you're managing your parents or somebody's finances and preparing for end of life, take a good, long, hard look at how that all works together and make sure what you have in place is what you want to have in place.
I would also say there are a lot of these attorneys that specialize this, and they want to charge you $5,000 to do a trust or whatever. Mine costs $750. I mean, even with $100,000 in assets, you can afford $750 for a trust. So I used a legal service here in Vegas. I mean, this was 10 years ago. Maybe the price has gone up, but you don't need an expensive, law firm to do what's pretty much boilerplate work.
Yeah.
And you can modify that in certain respects. When I was married to Shirley, we had a Bob Dancer Shirley Smith trust, and then we are no longer together, but the basic structure of that trust can be renamed to something else. So it isn't like, and of course you probably do want to rename it, otherwise everything goes to your ex, which is probably not what you want. So Jimmy, in case you're looking for another column to do for yourself, this seems like an idea of one that you could go into greater detail on.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right. We're going to take a brief commercial break. South Point has more than 10,000 games, returning more than 99%. This is more than anyone else has. In February, the promotion is free buffets. Monday through Thursday, earn 300 points between 3 a.m. and 1 p.m., get a free lunch buffet. 300 more points before 1 p.m., you get a dinner buffet. Otherwise, 600 points prior to 8 p.m. get you the dinner buffet. You can stack up the dinner buffets. You need to spend them before a few days into March. They will publish the date on the tickets. We're doing this before we have seen one of the tickets, but you can stack them up. So if you want to take a large group of your buddies to the buffet all at once, it works out. If they have your email address every weekend, they have play so much and get so much free play. A typical one would be play $200 coin in and get $20 of free play. So this is a 10% promotion on a small amount of play, to be sure, on games that are basically even money off the top, given the slot club. They do the email blast about 3 times a year. So if you are in Vegas on weekends, it's a good idea to let them have your email address. Even if you come in periodically on weekends, and you might be in, for example, the 3rd weekend of the month, well, you can pick it up then if they have your email address and you got the offer. If you have not gotten the offer, then it doesn't matter if you're in that weekend or not, you're not going to get it. On February 11th, free video poker class at noon is 9-6 Bonus Poker Deluxe. Bonus Poker Deluxe is the same as Jacks or Better, except 4 of a kind pays a lot more, 400 instead of 125, and 2 pair pays 5 coins instead of 10. So the strategy is similar to Jacks or Better, not quite identical, but similar. The variance is higher. If you're going to get a lot of 4 of a kinds that day, Bonus Poker Deluxe is a much better game to be playing than Jacks or Better. If you're not getting a lot of 4 of a kinds today, well, Jacks or Better, you're going to lose less. So, but unfortunately, before you spend the couple hours playing, you don't know which kind of day this is. BlackjackApprenticeship.com. It's an excellent site for those who wish to be successful at counting cards at blackjack. As we mentioned earlier in today's show, they have podcasts of a lot of people, including all 3 people at this table, who, and you can access those from the public area as opposed to the paywall area. So the podcasts give information from a lot of successful gamblers in a variety of gambling areas. Videopoker.com is the best place to practice lots of video poker games. If you sign up for the gold membership, $8.95 a month or $79.95 a year, this allows you to get correction on most of the games. The game of the week is Peek and Play Poker. This is a 7 coin per line game where you get to see the first card off a pack of 47 cards, which is 52 cards minus a 5 you're dealt. You must take that card, assuming you don't hold the 5 original cards. Let's say you're dealt the ace, king, queen, jack of spades, and a red 4. In normal video poker, you hold all 4 spades, say a prayer, and hope for a royal. Here you just hold the ace, because you know another ace is coming. I think I said a red 4, I meant a red ace. You know another ace is coming, and a new ace will be paired up by the first ace off the deck. Then you hope for the best. You'll have to work out the strategy on your own, and it comes with a great story. It's dealt 4 to the royal, but I just had a feeling that I was going to end up with 4 aces and a kicker, so I just held the ace, and it happened. So it's not going to happen very often, but when it does, you have a hell of a story. So, Very good. Let's go back to talking to Jimmy Jazz. Speaking of rare events, Jimmy, you have your own story from your wife.
Yeah, my wife plays a lot of the 50 play and 100 play penny machines because she likes playing them. So we had a trip last year, and in the course of 2 days down in, I think we were in Laughlin, she managed to go 0 for 800 on 4 to the Royal. So she's playing 50 play and 100 play, probably had 4 to the Royal dealt 15 times and whiffed on all of those. So I did a quick calc, and the chances of going 0 for 800 on 4 to the Royal is a little over 29 million to 1. So I would venture to say that I don't think that'll ever happen again. She's had all kinds of incredible stories on the plus side, so to me this was just one more little blip. But to me that was a staggering number, and she kept on sending me the pictures, and 100 play, 4 to the Royal whiff, 50 play, 4 to the Royal whiff, 100 play, 4 to the Royal whiff, and we counted them up, and it was 0 for 800. That's a lot.
Now, if that was happening online, people would absolutely swear they must be cheating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also either positive or negative, people make a big deal over the rare events.
Mm-hmm.
And so most of them depends on where you start counting from and where you stop counting from. Over a lifetime, it's nowhere near 1 in 29 million. But make for great cocktail party stories.
As a quick update to that story, we're playing this trip, and she's still playing the 100 plays and had 4 to the Royal dealt 3 times and filled in 13 of them.
In 300?
Yes.
So a rule of thumb, it's 1 in 47. So we'll say it's 2 per 100.
Yeah.
And so in 3 of them, it should be 6. And so she got 13.
Right. So I added them together, and if you put those 2 together, it's still on the low side, but nowhere near as much. And it just shows that, the 50 and 100 play, there's a different element to the variance than the single line. So you can see some pretty crazy swings in that.
But you also, was she playing for nickels this time instead of pennies?
No, I think it was pennies.
Uh-huh. Because if it was...
Aren't those like minus 5% or something?
No, it's bonus deuces wild, 98.8.
Yeah.
And it's 4 queens, so 4 queens got the good cash back and the comps and the rooms and the mailers, da-da-da-da. So it's not a great play, but she likes doing it, so...
No, hey, there are a lot of people whose wives, they like playing things that are minus 5 or 10%. So for her to have a game like that, that's great.
And she's actually a very good player, but likes to play some stuff that's not going to make you money because she enjoys it.
Yeah.
And she said, well, you do this and this and this and this. You play golf and you don't make any money at that. So let me have my little thing and leave me alone.
Yeah,
all right.
no, that makes, yeah.
Yeah.
I know her, and she's basically a frugal woman.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever one of these that has negative EV, it's going to be a small amount of negative EV, and she's not going to do it all that long.
And she likes doing it, so.
That's
I had
happy wife, happy life.
I had a revelation. I was actually at the Riverside Casino in the showroom, and we're waiting for Mass in the old Elvis showroom, which is kind of funny. And I'm sitting there before Mass, and I'm just kind of thinking, and it dawned on me that Haley Marie does not gamble for the same reason I do, which sounds obvious, but this was like a big revelation. And I thought, okay, she does her thing for a different reason. Quit yipping about it. Let her have her fun. And that's it. So once that revelation hit me, it's been a lot smoother as far as, when she plays something and loses a bunch of money. Oh, I lost all this money, blah, blah, blah. It's fine. I mean, she does her thing. She's happy. We're good.
And I know she's playing for stakes, so that a lot of money is not what a lot of money means to some people.
Relative to the amount wagered.
All right. El Cortez, if you bring in a boarding pass, what happens?
Well, that was a new one I just found. So if you bring in a boarding pass within 24 hours, you get 3 things. You get to pick a card. It's a swipe promotion. So you'll get some free play, some match play, and a drink ticket. So when I did it, I got a $10 in free play, a $25 match play, and the drink ticket. Now, what was interesting is it was actually by airlines. So when I swiped, it said, here's your Delta boarding pass bonus. So I don't know if it's different for different airlines, if they treat them differently or not. I'm not sure.
Is this at a kiosk or something where
Yeah.
it scans it?
Yeah. So you go to the booth, you show them your boarding pass, they punch in their numbers, you go to the kiosk, swipe, and it deals you 5 cards, you pick a card, it tells you what you win.
Do they check the boarding pass to see if your name is on it?
Yeah.
And is this for out-of-towners flying in, or would it also be for locals flying back to Vegas from a trip somewhere else?
That I don't know. I've heard the D has a similar offer, but it's only for Southwest and Spirit. And the Golden Gate has the same thing for Allegiant. And I saw on some of the message boards that people have used the one at the D for their flight home, presented the boarding pass, and the D gives you 2 $25 match play chips. So I'm going to try that on Sunday to see if it actually works or not.
So can you use the same boarding pass in more than one place?
Well,
I mean,
I
because
guess
the
if
D
you-
and the Golden Gate are owned by the same.
right. I imagine if I had a Southwest boarding pass and I went to El Cortez, I could probably do it there and then go over to the D and do it as well. So the D
But
and
could you then go down to the Golden Gate as
Golden
well?
Gate is only Allegiant.
Oh, it's only Allegiant. I
Oh.
thought it was additionally
No,
Allegiant.
I didn't make that clear. It's only Allegiant.
And, but
Does it have to be for that day?
Within 24 hours of landing.
So even if you could not use the same boarding pass, it is easy to get 3 or 4 boarding passes for the same flight. You just
Yeah.
you go to the kiosk at the airport and say, I need a boarding pass. Give it to you. Go to the kiosk.
Oh, I'm assuming that they get digitally. There's something in your account that says you've already used a boarding pass on Southwest.
Right, but if
or
you go to
something.
El Cortez and the D, you probably double dip it
Yeah.
for a Southwest or Spirit flight.
All right.
Yeah, but if you if you're on a Spirit flight, you deserve more than that.
This is true.
And I am actually more for me than Richard. I have longer legs than Richard's does, and those seats are really small. So now in 2 weeks is going to be my birthday. Do you have any good news for me?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few birthday deals going on. So I think I've written about these on the Gambling with an Edge blog before, but Grimaldi's is a free pizza in your birthday month. Setabello's is a free pizza. And the offer says within a week of your birthday, but they don't mail you the email to your birthday. So really you don't get the week before. So my birthday was...
So you have to be a member of their club and get this email?
Yeah.
Oh, same with Grimaldi's?
Yes.
So that might
Pretty
be,
much all of them.
That might be a good thing to mention, that you need to have the app or you need to...
That's a good thing to mention. So for Grimaldi's and Setabello's, you need to sign up on their website. Same with Jersey Mike's gets you a free sub combo meal on your birthday. And actually theirs is cool because it's good for 1 year from your birthday. So January 20th was my birthday, so I got their offer, and it's good for the next 365 days, which is the most generous one I've ever seen.
And it's actually good for 366 days. Go on.
Yeah. Twin Peaks, you can get a free meal. I also did a little bit of research online, and some of the casinos actually offer free play for birthdays, which I didn't know about. So the Park MGM says you can get $25 free play in your birthday month. And we were at the park Thursday, and I didn't realize this, so I didn't pick it up, but I will try that one to see if it's true or not. Luxor says $20 free play within 7 days of your birthday. And Excalibur is the same deal, $20 in free play within 7 days of your birthday. And Wynn and Ellis Island both say $10 in free play. Now, I haven't tried any of those yet, And the date of the post I saw said this was as of August 2019. So things change all the time. But that's a new angle on the birthday promotions.
I haven't been in Silverton for a while, but for a long time, they awarded $1,000 free, 1,000-point free play, which is worth $3. And they had the notice on every slot machine, every video poker machine in the place, come in on the day of your birthday and get 1,000 points. But it's worth $3. And the Silverton is out of the way. You have to drive there. It's impossible to walk to the Silverton from anywhere, basically. And I cannot imagine why that would be such a big deal that they would just keep advertising it over and over and over again. I thought they should have gotten a different marketing vice president.
Well, for the Silverton, though, 1,000 points might be a big deal for a lot of their customers. Don't they have kind of a older, less affluent crowd?
Maybe, but it's still $3, and you have to drive there.
I get you.
Maybe a bus will stop there. I don't know. But
Sahara has a birthday deal as well. It's up to 500 in free play, so I'll check that one out as well. And when you post this and have the show notes, I'll update with what I find out about these promos.
Okay. Good. Now, I played at the SLA on opening weekend, did really well, and basically they didn't want me. Now it's called Sahara. Is it still the same slot club, the code something, or do you have any idea?
Don't know about that one. We will make a trip there at some point.
It says visit the Club 52, so maybe the club.
Yeah.
And it used to be something with the word code in it.
Yeah, one code, I think.
All right. Bill Krakenberger has been a guest on our show. He's a sports bettor. Why was he in your show notes?
Well, he had a tweet, and he was talking about the people who live in the storm drains beneath the city. And there's a charity called Shine a Light, and there's also a book written by the guy who started the charity called Beneath the Neon, which details the life of some of these folks. It's a charity that I've supported in the past, and they also have a rehab center to try and get people back on its feet. And what kind of struck me is you got this city that has 800,000 people a week visit it with all kinds of money and excess everywhere, and you've got people actually living in storm drains beneath your feet. It was just, to me, it was kind of striking that you have that dichotomy between the people above the ground and the people who have to live in a storm drain. And rain isn't very frequent in this town, but when it is, basically you've got a waterfall coming through your, where you live and sleep. So very, very, very tough way to survive. So I support that charity. Also, the book Beneath the Neon is available through Huntington Press if anybody wants to give it a read. So that's why I mentioned that. I saw Bill supported that, and that's cool.
Now, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you and help you out with points for airline miles, how would that help them? How would that help you? And how does that happen?
Okay, I've kind of started a little side business, which I haven't formally incorporated yet, but I did manage to get my first business credit card, so I'm a little bit proud of that one. I got the Chase Performance Card, which is the 70,000 miles after the 5,000 spend. And I'm going to couple that with a personal card in a couple of months to get the companion fare. So the referral bonus is 10,000 rapid reward miles. So what I'm doing is, as I'm building to get the companion fare, I'd be willing to give the person I refer 3/4 of that, which I'd value at $75, value at a penny a piece. So if I sent Richard, for example, a referral, Richard signed up, got the card, they would credit me with 10,000 rapid reward miles. I would send Richard a check for $75. One interesting note about that is,
Even if you no longer needed the points, or
yeah, I would do that. And from my previous referrals, I've earned tens of dollars doing this. So, I mean, it's a huge moneymaker. But the companion fare is more important to me now.
What are you doing for spend when you need to do your 5,000 spend? Do you have...
Surprisingly, that's not as difficult as you think.
unfortunately, huh?
Well,
Yeah.
no, for some, for some people it's very easy, but if you're trying to juggle multiple cards with multiple spends, suddenly it becomes a...
And we've talked about this before. What I would say is, until you get pretty good at it, I would only do one card at a time just to try and stay focused. In my current situation, we had some hail damage to our house. We had to get a new roof put on. I've got an insurance check sitting in the bank. So what I'm going to do is, when we get this roof done, is pay it with the credit card and then pay off the credit card with the money in the bank. So that'll take care of all the spend for this card and probably for the next card as well. When my father was still alive, the last year and a half or so, he was in assisted living, which is pretty pricey. And the company started taking credit card payment. So my eyes lit up at that. And then after about 6 months, they said, we've got some bad news for you. We have to start charging a 1% fee now. And I said, okay, I can fade that. That's not a problem. So that was another source. But it's amazing. I mean, you find all the stuff you spend on a credit card, you just have to shift it over to the one you're trying to get the miles for.
Yeah, okay, so that's not manufactured spend.
No,
That's just real spend. You don't have the issue.
That reminds me, one quick topic I didn't put on here is I've talked about a company called Plastic before, which will basically do third-party payment, and you pay Plastic with a credit card.
Yes.
So we did a little more
That's
digging.
PLASTIQ.
Correct. And they have some limits. So if you have a Visa or an Amex, you can't use that to pay a mortgage. For some reason, they lock that out. And if you have a Visa, the maximum you can do through Plastic is 25% of your credit limit. And I'm not sure.
What do they charge for that?
They're typically 2.5%, but they run a lot of 1% specials. So
if you were paying Richard $75 because you referred and he signed up for something, is it worth it to you to pay that 1% premium on the $75 to go through Plastique?
probably not. But good way of thinking about it.
All right. But if you needed to spend...
Yeah. I mean, if you've got a $5,000 spend and you're scraping the last $75, you've probably got some planning issues anyway. And back to your original point, for the email address, you can use GWAE_CC, Gambling with an Edge credit card, at AOL.com. And that's the same one I've used previously for referrals. So if you have questions about that, or need a referral, or just have a general credit card question, I can help you out.
And that'll be in the show notes.
Yeah, and one final thing is Chase and Amex have changed their rules for the better. So if you have any Chase card in the Southwest family, you can now refer somebody for any card in the Southwest family. Before, if I had a performance card, I could refer you for a performance card. Now with a performance card, I can refer you for any of the 5 Southwest Chase credit cards.
You have a personal Southwest card. Can you refer your own business to get the business card?
I haven't tried that. I imagine there'll be a block on that. But so it opens up the referral process a little bit.
It depends. If it's Richard Munchkin LLC, they might.
Well, that's true. If I have a business with an EIN, well, but they still want the head of the business social security number and stuff, right?
But if you had a personal card and referred Gambling Wizards LLC, that might work.
Yeah, as a business card.
But I'm saying with a different name, that might work.
Oh, but then the points may not go in the same account, right? The 70,000 spend on the business card may not go into.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jimmy Jazz. To end the show, we usually have a recommended section. So, Richard, what do you have for our audience today?
I just fallen in love with the show. I guess, first of all, I want to say the last 2 weeks I've talked about television shows, I think, and movies, but it just happens to be that I'm going to mention another one because I found this show that I just love, and apparently it's kind of old, but I just discovered it. It's called Afterlife, 2 words. It's on Netflix, and it's written and directed and stars Ricky Gervais, who I think is hilarious, and, he created The Office. And this is a show that doesn't sound at all like it's going to be funny, and half of it is not. Half of it is just heartbreaking. But it's about a guy who's totally in love with his wife who dies, and she leaves him these long video messages, and he just now hates his life and is ready to commit suicide. So, again, sounds like something that would not be funny, but it's both funny and heartbreaking at the same time. And it's just a great show. It's on Netflix. So that's my recommendation for this week.
Very good. I have 2 recommendations. The first is if you're in town on February 19th and like storytelling, I will be giving a story at the A Public Fit Theater, which is at Maryland and Fremont, 7:30 p.m. in the evening. It'll set you back $10 to hear 5 or 6 different storytellers. Richard has been involved behind the scenes. And if you like storytelling, it's a good way to spend the evening, inexpensive.
We should mention these are true stories like The Moth, where people are telling true stories based around a theme.
And my story, I guess you could say, is humorous. And even if I tell you what it's about, you'll have no idea what the story is about. So I will tell you what it's about. It's about a horse and a bunch of condoms. That's what the story is about, and you will enjoy it, I promise. My second recommendation is, and I possibly have recommended it before, is Sprouts Supermarket. Sprouts is I know they have it in Nevada and California. I don't know where else. They sell close to a health food store, but they have much, much cheaper produce. And they have a full supply of vitamins. If you go to Whole Foods, you'll find a bigger supply. But it is more like a health food store than a regular store, but it's much less expensive for produce and many other things. You will not find a hardware department or auto supplies department like you will in some major supermarkets. But you will like the prices. They have sales every week. They're week long. And the sales go Wednesday to Wednesday. So if you shop on Wednesdays, it's double ads where you get last week's prices and next week's prices. So Bonnie and I have a square dancing event on Wednesdays, and so we make it a point to stop by Sprouts on the way home. And so that is my recommendation for the week. So thank you, Jimmy Jazz. Thank you, Richard. Go out and hit lots of royal flushes, everybody. Good day.